Hello and welcome to the Art of Action Figures. Okay, let's do a quick rundown of the faces that are included for Beast Gohan. We've already looked pretty closely at his neutral face or serious face. I think this one came out really nice. Let's see. Next, I want to take a look at one that looks a little funny to me, and that is this smirk face. I was excited for this expression. I don't know if his eyes are just a little cross-eyed. It just looks a little strange. It looks alright from some angles. It's also maybe lack of outline around the mouth. Kind of looks like he's got toothpaste smeared around, but it's not too bad. And from a distance, maybe looks worse. I don't know. Yeah, his pupils just seem close together. This one looks just a little bit off, and I don't think it's an error. It's probably just the way it was designed. Yeah, it looks okay from some angles. It's borderline too close together. Let's see. Next we'll check out his gritting teeth, angry face. This one has the full-sized pupils. And I think that one looks pretty good, actually. The pupils are maybe a little bit big, especially if you compare. Let's see, are they the same size as this neutral face? They should probably be. I'm not sure if they are. They look a little bit larger to me. Yeah, compare the distance between the corner of his eye and the edge of the pupil. I'm not sure why they made them bigger than this. I would think this would be the biggest that they should be. And then he has a shouting and looking slightly to his right face, and this one is meant for his special beam cannon attack. And I think they put some extra care because this one looks great. The angle of the eyebrows is really nice. He has just a touch of looking that way. Okay, then aside from alternate hands, I'm not going to go through all of those. They're pretty much your standard alternate hands, same as Ultimate Gohan, except for the two pointing finger hand. The last accessory, though, is the crossed arms, and I'll demonstrate how to swap these on and off. It can be a little tricky if you're not used to it, so I like to, let's see, you really need to kind of pull these out at the shoulder, but the peg feeds through the bicep, which is just loosely fit on it and kind of wedged between the shoulder and the elbow. I'll show you how to put it back on easily. It can be a little tricky at first. Okay. You always want to be careful not to twist anything while you're pulling the arms off. And then usually I just try to put these on one at a time. And I find the easiest way to do at least one of them is to push into his body And that went on pretty painlessly. Now the other one, you got to pre-position the shoulder joint. For it to be able to reach. And it should actually click into place when you've got it in there. And there you go. It's a pretty good look, I think. And these also can go on Ultimate Gohan. I won't show that just for the sake of time. But now to get them off, you want to be careful only to pull out and grab the two pieces as you're doing it to put the arms back on. Sometimes people try to just do this and it doesn't work very well because the shoulder wants to just go up and down. And so to fix the shoulder in place, what I do is I usually will rotate it upside down, or at least 90 degrees back. And then that gives me some resistance so that I can push this in and it meets the resistance of his torso here. And so, like I said, that bicep piece just goes over the joint and just sits on there loosely and then gets wedged between the elbow and the shoulder. And if you do all of that correctly, it should also do a click for you. And something is not quite right here. You've got to push from the forearm into the shoulder, otherwise okay, I'm gonna try just putting this in a regular T-pose and we'll see how that goes. That is not wanting to go in there. Okay. All right. Okay, we're back, and that was one of the worst part swapping experiences I have ever had with a figure. That arm swap mechanism has never been my favorite. I have worked out methods of trying to make the swap as painless as possible. Usually I put the arm out in a T-pose and push it into the torso like that, and that has worked for every figure that I've tried it on in the past, but not this one because of his shirt, which makes as you are pushing it in, it pushes the shoulder sculpted piece itself out, and then inside the shoulder sculpt there is a hinge, and that hinge actually has the socket that the elbow needs to peg into. Now pushing in like this pushes the socket into the torso, but this shoulder sculpted piece gets pushed out by the sleeve, and basically the socket needs to be flush with the shoulder. Imagine this hand's the shoulder, this is the socket, and what happens is as you're pushing the peg into the socket, this happens. And these are going back in the box where I will probably never take them out. So yeah, that was really unpleasant to try to do, especially without breaking the figure, tearing the shirt, getting the shirt caught on the bicep, which it seems like I managed to avoid, but man. Okay, and the last place to talk about differences between these two figures is the range of movement in his upper body. So Squeakiness aside, I do love just how posable 3.0 Ultimate Gohan is. So, very disappointed if this Beast Gohan doesn't get the same level of posability. So let's put him to the test. We'll put Beast Gohan back here, and let's start by demonstrating the torso range. To do that, I'm going to put his arms up 90 degrees so they are straight out from his chest, like perpendicular to his chest. And crunch forward as much as we can. Try not to move the hips at all. Keep those as locked as we can. And you can see from the side the angle of his arms. It was here. Now it's here, so that's a little bit more than 45 degrees in ab crunch. Same now for Beast Gohan. We'll put his arms out 90 degrees, perpendicular to his chest. And while moving this, I'll note I do not like moving parts below this overlay, because you can't grab them and move them precisely. You're always moving them through a barrier, and it just fights you and doesn't necessarily move how you are intending it to. And okay, his belt rides up at the back, but you can scoot it down. I'm not going to bother just because I don't want to have to reposition it when I return him to neutral. But that's as good as I can do. And you can clearly see the range is very limited compared to Ultimate Gohan. So that's disappointing. It's less than 45 degrees ab crunch. Now let's have him lean back. It's going to be hard getting him to balance, but that is not very much range going back. It's like 5 to 10 degrees maybe. And there's Ultimate Gohan. So don't cheat. Make his hips neutral. And let's get his in the same exact position, or as close to it as we can. Ultimate Gohan, he does need a little bit more range in his torso, especially going back. All right, now putting Ultimate Gohan in a nice T-pose here, I'll show how much he can lean to the side. Not a ton. That's maybe 10 degrees or so. And we'll do the same with Beast Gohan. Get him to T-pose, and as you do, one thing is the shoulders do kind of resist T-pose, so you have to push them, and you want to be careful not to tear this weird spot where the shirt is split. It comes split here, but it's connected here, and if you push up on it to get him into T-pose, you risk tearing that. So let's give him a tilt to the side as much as I can. So to do this, I'm going to try at least grabbing him from the chest with my thumb. That's pretty equivalent, so not too bad. I mean, really, both could be better. All right, and now for the one that I've been most concerned about, with Beast Gohan, how do these shoulders move? So some interesting stuff has gone into this. There's your typical 3.0 ball and socket connected to another ball and socket that goes down into the torso. And then there is a skin colored shoulder cap piece. And I think that is just a loose piece in there. So very similar setup, but then you also have this overlay, which is split right here on purpose. Let's see if we can get the arms across the chest on Beast Gohan. So the way to do this with these 3.0 shoulders is you have to pull the shoulder out of the socket a little bit. You can see that. There is a little bit of a shift as I do that. Do it carefully. But when you do that, it does give you a little bit more clearance across the chest. And you can see as I'm pulling this arm out across it, the shirt is really fighting and pushing back. One thing I've noticed as I'm doing this, if you pull those shoulders out, it tends to drop them really low. So you also want to kind of push them up. I think that's the best I can do, and that is not good. So I really recommend they either soften this torso material or go back to this style of joint, because let's just recap what Ultimate Gohan here can do. Again, if you pull the shoulder out, you get the maximum out of these butterfly joints. And that's a big difference for me. So, and nothing is pulling them back. Yes, there is a gap behind the joint if you look at it from this angle, but I don't care because it moves like that. And yes, there's even still a gap if you look at this one from this angle. So neither of these looks good. This works and this does not. So that this is really a deal breaker for this figure for me. So, all right. And even to get that range, you have to put him in such a weird hunched shoulder position versus Ultimate Gohan, who can stand pretty naturally and hit that pose. So, all right, now I will demonstrate the range going backwards as well as up. So let's get Beast Gohan here reset. And we're going to do the same thing with the backwards range on these shoulders. Pull them out just a little bit and then get the maximum range out of that hinge. Be careful not to push on the bicep. Always just try to move the shoulder when you're moving the shoulder. To get the maximum range, again, you've got to drop his shoulders weirdly low. And that's all you can get. Weirdly low being like that. If you push them up, they will not go back so far. So if you have his shoulders at a regular height, they really don't go back at all. So It's disappointing. Honestly, I hope, like, I think there is something here that they can salvage, maybe. The sculpting work on the torso is quite nice. Like I was pointing out, like the shape of his traps is really improved. The shirt is just more seamless, obviously, but again, Ultimate Gohan here. There we go. Yep. So that is victory for this torso setup as far as I'm concerned. Okay, victory lap. Let's see how well they can do the A pose up above their heads. Okay, now let's put his head back. You kind of have to play with these shoulder caps a little bit on this one because they do get in the way. But the nice thing about them being separate from the chest and main torso shirt is you have to play with these shoulder caps a little bit, twist them, swivel them around in order to get this pose. And he still can't get it quite as much as I want him to be able to. Super Saiyan 4 Goku does it really well, which is cool because that's like the first appearance Super Saiyan 4 pose where he has his arms straight up beside his head. But you can see here he can't totally do the A pose, but at least he gets his arms inside of totally vertical. Now, we're going to have trouble here because Beast Gohan, these shoulder pieces cannot swivel. And as we already talked about, they just push against you when moving the shoulder joints. And that is as good as I can do. And that's a Y. That is not even close to an A. So, again, advantage goes to the Ultimate Gohan torso here. Okay. I do think this overlay concept could have potential. The other point that I can't talk about yet is durability, because only time will tell really how well this rubber holds up over time. I don't know if it's exactly rubber. It might just be a soft plastic, but again, only time will tell if it will hold up. It's a design that has potential. Like, imagine the Saiyan armor characters. I know a lot of people don't like this hinge. It breaks the sculpt. It doesn't really get out of the way like you want it to. But Gohan, little kid Gohan here, even without the alternate chest piece that gives him more range, already gets more range than Beast Gohan. At least going forward. He doesn't get any going back because he's on the 2.0 hinge butterfly. But I can imagine, like, say an armor character with this type of overlay could work, especially if it was removable. That would at least let these shoulder pads flex more naturally. But again, I'm just not sure it would work, because if it's soft enough that they flex naturally, it might not be durable enough. And if it's too stiff to be durable, it might not get out of the way, and it might do something more like this, where you push the arm up and then you remove your thumb and it just pushes it back down. So, I don't know. I don't like this direction personally because I really prioritize mobility for these martial artist characters. Other characters, this might be great. Like, I don't know, martial arts tournament announcer. He probably doesn't need like super duper butterfly joint range. But Gohan, Goku, when they do inevitably make a 3.0 Goku, I hope that it comes out more similar to the way that Kong did it, which was kind of copied off of the way that Figure Arts did it first for Ultimate Gohan. I think there's some refinement to be done for sure. I don't think this Kong 3.0 is the definitive 3.0 Goku style body. It's just an example, and could be a direction that Figure Arts takes their official Goku. Alright, now let's go ahead and put Ultimate Gohan and Beast Gohan here to the test with a posing challenge. I'm going to take poses from the Fighters model and Adult Gohan's moveset specifically, because I think he gets a nice range of attacks, and we'll get to see all the strengths of each of these on display. So the first one, let's just do his special attack, which is just a standing sort of key pulse. It's pretty basic. He just extends this arm out to the side and then a little bit back, looks down and to his left, and then pulls this arm back, leaves his fist attached to his arm, strangely enough. There we go. It's a short PSA. Don't try to move your figure's arm by grabbing the hand. All right. There's his standing special attack. Nothing too crazy. Nice and easy one to start with. I think really when he fires this, he kind of looks to the side with his eyes, but I don't have that face option here, so. Okay, and actually, I think his arm should maybe be tucked back a little bit more. Always exaggerate the pose and the scale, because it usually makes it look a little more alive. Other things like the angle of his elbow is usually gonna, let's see, line up with the thumb pretty much. There we go. Okay, let's give Beast Gohan a go. Swap on his blast hand. Go ahead, raise that arm. Extend it as much as I can and put his head looking in that direction, just a little bit of width to his stance, and then pull this arm back, curl the fist. Okay. Things to know about this pose for these two. I mean, the whole point of this torso design is it's supposed to hide articulation. And, I mean, maybe there's more to it than that. Maybe they want to start reusing base bodies and put different clothes on them. I hope that's not what they're doing. I don't think they should have to do that, but I mean, as far as hiding articulation, this one is not doing it as effectively as this one here. You can really see where it's split. You can see straight into this socket and this hinge, versus here, sure, you see the cut, but it connects with this piece and kind of blends into the rest of the shirt as just another fold, and then you don't see the hinge, and you get good extension on the arm. So yeah, I don't know. And then other things, it's not as easy to subtly just like arch his back a little bit, because you can't subtly do anything with this torso. Honestly, it's hard to arch his back at all. He also can't pull this opposite arm back very much. That's about the extent of it. Elbows work exactly the same, but you can see, look how much more that arm goes back. And that's not most of the range even. And you can do a nice arch at his back. All right, next, let's go ahead and do his normals. So he has, let's see, backhanded punch, which I think is his just regular light attack. Needs his other fist back again. We'll do Beast Gohan first this time. Let's go ahead and do the wind up and the punch, since both are kind of cool looking. All right, let's swap his fists back on, and we'll go ahead and do Beast Gohan first this time. Let's do the wind up for his light attack. He's got to kick this leg out to the side, this leg forward, bent at the knee, and then the angle of his back should pretty much match the angle of this leg. And then he's winding up for a backhand punch by bringing this arm across his body as much as he can, which is not very much. He's got his face tucked into his shoulder here, kind of. His head is gonna remain attached to his body throughout the move. So let's make sure that's in place. Okay, and bring this arm back and bend at the elbow. Again, gotta match this. He's wound back, head down into his shoulder. This shoulder really needs to be raised up. He needs to be twisting more. Okay, something like that, I think. Maybe a little bit more wind up on the elbow there. Yeah, I think that's pretty close. Nope, I gotta get the angle of his back. Okay. Does he have the Naruto thing? He kind of does, where he's got a little bit of a ball joint in the thigh swivel. It's really subtle, but it does help a little bit with like angling his leg here. Man, he just doesn't want to stay leaning. Okay. That's about as good as I can do there. Now let's try Ultimate Gohan. Same deal. Let's kick this leg out, plant that foot, this knee bent, torso twist, elbow here, back, and ready to wind up for the backhand. Neck, back, shoulder, or face, kind of going down into the shoulder, elbow, back here. And then the all-important angle of the spine relative to that leg. They both do a decent job here. Neither is amazing. Let's really try to get that torso lean going on both of them a little more. So if you were winding up, you really want to twist. There you go. Let's see. I've got Beast Gohan getting a little lower there. I don't know if that's just luck. Yeah. Okay. All right. The wind-up is pretty even between the two. Really, I think... Okay, here we have them winding up for the backhand punch. Things to note here, the Ultimate Gohan, once again, hides the shoulder joint significantly better than Beast Gohan. The lower bodies are pretty much identical. It's also easier to curl the torso here. Beast Gohan really doesn't curl in the torso very much. Okay, now to deliver the punch, I'm gonna shift his weight to the other leg. Unwind, pop out that arm for the backhanded blow. Still looking to the side, got this arm tucked back, and we gotta get that weight onto that front foot, even on the figure, if you want it to look realistic. And the best way to do that is to almost balance him on one foot as well as you can, and then just let the other foot just touch the floor for extra balance. Beast Gohan here is a little bit more top heavy because of that hair, so gonna have a slightly harder time balancing, but ultimately pulls it off. I really think his torso should be turned more like this, actually. And then there should be a curl in his spine like that, but I can't do that with this figure because of the clothes. So we'll just do it as well as we can. Do the same for Ultimate Gohan. Shift the weight, squeak those joints, and I should be able to get a little bit more curve in the spine. Which I think helps to sell the force of the blow a little better. And a little bit more extension in the arm will also help have that effect. And there we go. Let's see. Let's tuck that arm back and shift that a little bit. So yeah, I'm not happy with how I did that on this Gohan. Let's see. It's funny how they can look almost identical, but just the slightest difference in weight distribution really throws it off. But there you get the idea with that one. Okay, let's go ahead and do his forward kick. This is kind of like a roundhouse kick, I guess. To do this one, you want to throw this arm back, this leg forward, rotate the waist 45 degrees when you do a front-back split, because that's how humans work. Crunch forward as much as you can, and then tuck this arm. This arm should really be in as much of a up and back position as I can get it in. The shoulder there, you can see the clothes separating, which is annoying. Okay. Something to that effect. They're not going to be able to balance in this position, but I'll hold them side by side and we can see. Let's go ahead and get Ultimate Gohan going here. Same idea, but he will be able to bring his arm back more naturally. Something like that. And again, the torso movement just is really helping get that polish on these poses that this one's really lacking. All right. Next up, let's do his flying kick. It's pretty similar, just this time pull both arms back and get him up in the air like that. Okay, next we'll try a high kick, which should test the side-to-side split range mostly, and hopefully the balance as well. I'm hoping I can get them to balance on one foot. We'll give Ultimate Gohan the first attempt here. So for the high kick, you're gonna split the legs like this, turn his waist towards the lower leg, bend that foot a little bit because it's kind of a heel kick, and then got to do something with these arms. So this one should be pulled back sort of towards this knee. His neck should be down with his head pressed into his chest, looking to where he's kicking. And then this arm is pulled back and curled up for power in the kick. And then his torso should be also kind of arched back and bent this way. So let's try to exaggerate that a little bit. Okay. I think one of the things that could be improved here is the neck articulation on both of these doesn't have the greatest range. Let's see. There we go. Not too much of a problem. I'm wondering if this position could be better achieved with a front back split. Let's just try that. Yeah, so front back split lets you get the legs a little bit wider. So that might be the way to do this one. Really tuck that arm tight to his side there. I think then his fist here, we want to just make sure it's rotated. Okay, I think that's a pretty good looking high kick. Just got to get him resting on that one foot. Okay. Now let's do the same with Beastie Boy here. I think the main limitations we'll run into are the same across the board with this guy, that the torso just can't really arch at the back at all. His hair makes him a little top heavy. And the shoulders cannot position as dynamically as Ultimate Gohan, but you know, that's a pretty reasonable. Let's work on that torso a little bit. Okay. Get it turned a little more arch it back as much as I can. Get this arm back as much as it'll go. And tuck that elbow. And then we gotta try to balance him with all that hair. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Let's see, he's not getting quite the same height from that angle. Let's just adjust the angle a little bit. Ooh, all right, there they go. Okay. Next, let's try just his little jab punch. This one's pretty straightforward. It's just kind of a crouching kneel on one knee with the punching fist extended outward. Torso rotated in the direction of the punch. And then you want to kind of tilt it a little bit and then compensate with the angle of the arm, and that'll make it look like he's leaning into the punch versus just like standing and holding his arm out. And then we've got to get this foot back, toe hinge pointed. And then this leg forward, knee all the way bent. And that toe hinge going, and then this arm is back, curled like something like that. I can already tell this one's going to be a tricky one to balance. Just because of using both the toe hinges. It just doesn't give him a very big base to stand on. The bigger the base, the bigger the range of area that the center of gravity can move within while the figure is still balancing. It's a lot of fine adjustments in the position of the legs here. Also, we're going to make sure that fist is in the right orientation. Okay, there we go. Now for Ultimate Gohan, same deal. That was pretty successful for Beast Gohan. I like that one. I think Ultimate Gohan will do it just fine too. So, punching arm up and out. Torso is tilted into the punch. Head is facing the direction of the punch. This arm is back and curled. toe hinge down just a fraction. We're getting there. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. I still think there's maybe a little room to lean this torso a bit more, but pretty close call between these two. Okay, let's try their sliding kick. So for this one, we're gonna have this leg kicking out, this leg tucked under, bent at the knee, foot is kind of back along the thigh, and then torso is rotated and tilting back. And he's looking that way, and then the arms are pulled back. Something like this. Something like that. There we go. Same for Beast Gohan. Straighten that front leg, curl this one up by the thigh. Lean the torso that way. Arm pulled back, this arm pulled back and out. Try not to rip his shirt, and then tilt that head as much as we can towards the kick. Beast Gohan here. I suppose he could be looking more like that. Those came out pretty similar, I think. All right. While he's in this sort of pose, let's just do his down kick, his down jumping kick. So this one is just kind of the same deal, except lean all the way that way. Arms even basically as back as they can go, and bent at the elbows, doing the superhero shoulder thing. And get his head looking down just a little bit more. So that one should come out something like that. Beast Gohan, we'll give him the same treatment, except his arms aren't going to pull back quite as much. Point that toe. And try to lean his torso that way. Just a little bit more stiffness in the Beast Gohan pose, but I still think it looks pretty good. The hair makes up for it. Gives it a little bit more of a dynamic feel. One more pose I want to try is a rising uppercut. Sort of Shoryuken kind of pose. This one, you want to raise this punching shoulder as much as you can relative to the other one. The more tilt you get in that shoulder angle, the more dynamic the pose will look. Okay. So, waist or ab torso articulation can help a little bit with the shoulder tilt. You want to curl this arm just a hair, get his neck back and looking up to where he's punching. This knee forward and bent. And then this one just kind of falling behind. And I think another feature of this one, you want to line up this arc between the arm and the spine and the leg. As best as you can. Let's see. Let's rotate him at the waist a little more. Give him as much tilt. And there. Let's check that line. That looks pretty good. There's a little bit of gapping. You could scoot the belt down if you really wanted to. I'm not too bothered by it because I'm going to be looking at him from this side. But that is not bad. Our line is pretty strong. I could bring that shoulder up a little bit more, but the more it goes up, the more it flares out to the side on Beast Gohan here. Okay, that's pretty close. Yeah, I think we'll call that rising uppercut for Beast Gohan. Same deal, this arm, we want to rotate it up, curl it in just a little, give him as much tilt to really maximize the range of movement. All right, this knee up and forward, this leg kind of relaxed. Neck is back, face is up. Check our line, how are we doing? The more severe this arc, the tighter the pose looks. But if it breaks like this, it weakens it. See how it's kind of got a W shape? We want to avoid that, so let's really push that arm. That's much better, I think. Okay, and just give him a side-by-side look here. Pretty similar. You can see Beast Gohan's arm is pushed out from his body a little bit more, just due to the structure of that shoulder sleeve. And then let's check the angle of the shoulders relative to the waist. So use the belt as a guide for where the waist is pointed. Get their knees at the same height, and let's compare that shoulder angle. They look pretty similar, so that's good. Now, let's do firing the Masenko. Very important pose for Gohan figure. So I'm going to go ahead and swap the shouting face on for both figures. One problem with Beast Gohan is he doesn't have a direct forward-looking shouting face, so that we'll just have to kind of work around by looking at him in profile so you can't tell where his eyes are looking as much. Let's put the open blasting hands on each of the figures. Always be careful swapping your hands. Okay. Okay. One more hand to swap and then we'll be done. Okay. Whew, not bad. Now we want both of his, first of all his torso leaning as forward as it can. We also want legs spread apart and bent in at the knees. And then we want shoulders forward, head up and back. And then we gotta cross his palms like this. As well as you can do it. Okay, and then cross his one palm over the other. like this. There we go. That's pretty good. Raise that thumb just a little bit. All right. So here he needs a strong back foot to support his body while he's firing the blast. You can imagine it has a kickback like that, so he's kind of arched against it. All right. Nope. There we go. Now we'll try the same with Beast Gohan, and I think he's probably going to struggle here because of the shoulders. Yeah, so we're going to do everything we can to get these in front, but I don't think they're going to make it all the way. And so what you got to do in that case is probably rotate the elbows in a little bit. Yeah. Okay. This one just isn't really going to work because even if you wanted to rotate the elbows in, doing so moves the biceps so that it now gets pushed out even further by the shirt. And so he can do crossing palms, but you've got to bend his elbows like 45 degrees to do it, and so that's not very good. And then he can't get that same curl in the torso either. So, yeah, this round definitely goes to Ultimate Gohan here. But for the most part, I'm not unhappy with the other poses for Beast Gohan. I think it's mostly limited in the shoulders and the torso and getting the little nuances right with those pieces, but here there's pretty stark difference. So this same sort of pose is what you would do for Kamehameha, for Goku or Gohan. And so I really hope they go with this shoulder and torso design or something with this range when they do make a Goku figure on the 3.0 build. I want to try getting both of them in the special beam cannon pose. We'll use this as a reference, so I'm going to put it back here. Okay. Ultimate Gohan doesn't have two finger pointing hands, so we'll have to use our imaginations a little bit. But Beast Gohan does include one for his right hand. Always use most caution swapping out wrist hand pieces. It's the smallest joint, some of the smallest plastic, and so it's definitely a higher likelihood of that part failing compared to other parts on the figure. You can see just how little that wrist is, although this one looks pretty substantial, feels solid, no real worries other than just standard be careful changing wrists on every figure. Now, he is quite capable of touching his forehead, as is also shown on the box here. Double hinged elbows make that no problem at all. So he's charging his attack just fine, but let's see if he can fire it. Alright, so to give him the best odds of success, let's bring this arm in as much as we can. Like that, thereabouts. Let's see. Get him looking to the side, like that. So far it looks sick, but now comes the tricky bit, where we gotta get this hand clear over there, and it just does not want to be there. So what are we gonna do? Let's see. We can do the trick where we pull the shoulder out, and it looks like they've done that a bit here too. You can see how low his shoulder droops. Let's maybe do similarly on the other arm. Bring it. All right, they got it closer than that. I can do it. Let's see. You can see the clothes just want to spring back and push the arms where you don't want them to be. That's not a bad approximation, but I think we can do better. I'm going to pull him close for a minute here and just really fine-tune it. All right. There we go. That looks about right, and it looks pretty weird with this arm drooping like that down because the shoulder has to go out for it to go forward. Now, let's give Ultimate Gohan a try with the same pose, and we'll see how he fares. Go ahead and pop his fists. Swap his open left hand. Okay, so Ultimate Gohan doesn't have the two-finger pointing hand, so we'll just give him his other blast hand. And let's see how he fares. We're going to bring that arm out and across the body. And you can see we've made contact with no real issues there. Give it a little bit of refinement here. Yeah, here we go. Okay. And that is not a problem for Ultimate Gohan. So that's what good shoulder joints can do for you. And for me, is kind of the nail in the coffin for this torso design until they either rework it with different material that's more flexible, or figure out some other way to get the shoulders around it. Okay, and there you can see Ultimate Gohan touching his other arm at the bicep with no problem whatsoever. And that's the power of effective shoulder joints, and kind of the nail in the coffin for this Beast Gohan torso design. Obviously, it works from some angles, but it is definitely a little bit disappointing and a little concerning that it's still on the front of the box. That I don't know, that torso design hasn't quite worked out. So there you have it. All right, and while we have him in this pose, let's go ahead and set up the special beam cannon effect, which is translucent blue plastic with some white paint applied on the forward end of it. There's also a skin tone hand that is painted and looks really odd from this angle. The fact that the hand is sculpted onto the beam also means that Piccolo cannot use this effect, which is really disappointing. Let's see, how's that paint? The paint is not bad. Obviously, there's some misses here and there, like in between on the middle finger. And then around the bottom, it just, I don't know, the sculpt kind of falls apart, which is really strange. I don't know why they did this. It would have been, or it seems like, to me at least, it would have been easy enough for the end of the beam to just plug into his pointed fingers. But instead, now his painted skin tone doesn't exactly match his actual skin tone, and you can't share the effect with Piccolo. Now, it might not be the right color for Piccolo, but you can work around that with lights and Photoshop or whatever. But okay, anyhow, now we have a stand that comes in two pieces. There's a base and then this prop piece, which plugs into the bottom of the tip of the effect, and you want to push it on carefully from the tip itself. I find it's probably easiest to put the effect together with the base, and then let's see, we need to figure out how to angle it so that it lines up with that arm. And then it won't really stand on its own until we plug it in. So let's go ahead and pop off his pointing hand and plug this one in. Hopefully it isn't too much trouble, but there is some fit weirdness since it's a painted piece. And that looks pretty tremendous, I think. Let's maybe turn the lights down